I grew up in Dallas, so I was aware of it, like when I was a kid. But I remember driving by down the two-lane Highway 22 and seeing the barn and remembering that. And then I finally went to see a play in 1966, The House of Bernarda Alba. And that was the first show I saw there. That was my first experience with Pentacle directly. It was June 1985. I was working at NORPAC at the time, and I was involved with this other group, Salem Theater Group, and somebody knew about that, and there was an ad in the paper about somebody needing a costumer at Pentacle. They said, "Oh, you should do this," and I thought, "Oh, I don't know, Pentacle Theater. I don't know. They don't accept anybody over there," but I did anyway. It was Louise Larson doing "Who's Happy Now," and that was my first show, doing costumes. Then I helped on the set, of course, because she's crazy creative, and it was great. Yeah. One time. Mr. Gibb in Arsenic and Olays. 15 lines. I remember that. So there is actually a picture of me in my costume and everything, which is actually kind of a cool. I don't know where it is, but look like an old style mortician is what I look like. And I didn't audition for it. They didn't have an actor, and they were just desperate to find somebody. So because I wouldn't have auditioned otherwise. Oh yeah, I volunteered for 9 years. I did 13 sets in that time. But I also was like the costume chair and did some other things. I knew you were going to ask me this too. So and I figured out because I did like 203 sets. So it's kind of a blur. And thank God for the 65th program, for the 65th anniversary, so I could actually look at all this stuff. I remember hair. I love doing hair. That was fun. Well, the whole show. I mean, when did we do that? I was real younger than I am now, so it was pretty cool doing that. I mean, it just was a crazy, creative, great show. I remember we did a rake set and with a huge peace symbol painted on the floor, and it was multiple levels, and we had a screen that we actually projected things. I think we still had our 12 dimmer manually operated light board. That was how we ever did that. It's beyond me. You had to set up each cue manually and then put it up and then set up the next one and and we did it. I still remember we did Metropolis, and there was like over 140 cues, and we did every one of those manually. And I still don't know how we did it. I mean, we did it, but that was a lot because we had two people working on the lights up in the booth because one person couldn't handle all those cues. So we were pretty creative back then. A more recent one was the Addams Family. I like that. I could just go on and on because there actually were some that I really did like. Yeah, so the theater has definitely evolved considerably for the last 35 years. I mean, getting those LED backlights you could just program what color you wanted. It was great. I mean, that just opened up a whole new level of what we could do. Yeah, the first projection thing I did was Picasso at La Pinagelle. We did a back projection, and because we had such a limited space, we had to project onto a mirror, and then the mirror would project onto the screen. So we could, and it was a painting of some sheep that then dissolved into a Picasso painting, and that was the first time that we ever did anything technical like that. So that was pretty cool. But we did use the mirror thing, a couple of times because we didn't have the space back there. And then we added that whole back space that we have now 18 feet of backstage, so we can make the sets bigger. Okay. But before, when I first was out there, before they had the expansion project, we had someone had built like a lean-to thing in the back. So we had the backstage was like 4 feet wide. And I think you did shows out there during that time, as I recall. You know about that? And people had to go outside and change their costume. I remember we did Biloxi Blues, and the guys had to go out and change into their underwear in February, of course. They come back in. Like Suzico, for example, because that was really over the top kind of. I love doing. Oh, that's another one. I forgot all about that one. I love doing that show. That was great. And it's how can you communicate the story visually is really what it is. And what are the requirements? Because you need a door somewhere or the stairs or something. I mean, there's obviously some things that you have to have. And talking with the director, and some directors are more involved in that process than others. And so it just sort of depends. It's just with each individual show. It just depends on what it calls for. And over those 203 shows, it calls for a whole variety of things. So. And another thing I came up with, I realized that I had worked with 45 different directors. I had to check that number too, because I thought, whoa, there's been a lot of directors out there. I worked with 45 of them. I thought, this is why I look like this. Well, another show, because when we did How the Other Half Loves, I think that's the only show that I worked with you on, and that was a very interesting set to do. That to combine those two different apartments and you guys playing off each other. I remember, and I did it twice. So that was actually the first set I did on my own, because the other sets for Who's Happy Now, and I did Nuts with Joe Dodge. But they had already kind of started the set. So, but How the Other Half Love was my first solo effort. So I guess it's kind of significant now that I think of it. Maybe that's why I did the model, because I was so into it. Some guy from Willamette saying, "Well, how much are your budgets?" And I told him what it is. He said, "Oh, we have that much for a piece of furniture." So I thought they were like, I seemed to have enough money, but then I was really frugal, and it's amazing what you can make with cardboard. But I think that's part of what I enjoyed a lot, was that because of the whole variety of sets, what each play called for was, I mean, it was challenging, but really enjoyable to figure out, like doing ancient Rome and going to Ireland the next time, or going all these different places, and it was great. I liked that. Like when I first started out there, we didn't have the expansion part, so the sets really were fairly shallow. You had the back wall, and that was it. You couldn't. But then once we expanded, we could suddenly do like 2-story sets and and of course I love levels and all that, and I rarely did anything that was just one level, because I thought levels were great for sight lines and you can play off people that way. So I'm just trying. I did some pretty big sets. So we had sets that went all the way to the back walls. Oh yeah, how can I forget that? Oh yeah, a 28-foot revolve. Oh yeah, and I remember we did that the first time. We did it twice, and we put it in there, and I hadn't really thought about how tall it was. And I remember we started turning around. I'm looking up there. Oh no, the lights! And I thought for sure. Fortunately, it didn't run into any of the lights. It was great. But those are the kinds of things that was one of the things I had to always keep thinking ahead. If I make this decision, how's it going to affect the next 3? Or what's going to screw up so it always kept me on my toes, for sure. And as far as getting help, I was grateful for any help I would get, but you never knew. And then it was like people were available at night or on the weekends or whatever, so it's not like I could just go out and find a crew of people, except for the strike crew. That was the one I could count on. Well, we did do the capital campaign and make significant improvements to the facility. It's amazing what we did. and then we raised the money for it, and we raised almost $1 million. And we got things like mundane things, like a whole sprinkler system for the building and new plumbing, and we put a road in and all new seats. As a retired person, I'm into the facility now. So. And the landscaping. Actually, we were out there. I was out there yesterday working on the landscaping, and I would like to get the parking lot expanded. So they have a bigger parking lot. So there'd be a little more room for the cars we have, plus more. Probably some more addition to the scene shop for more storage. Even though one of our projects was that we did actually add another 2-story, like 35 by 40 foot 2-story addition to that, which is now completely full. Because you have to keep all that stuff. You can't throw this stuff away. You never know when you might use it. So the furniture and all, I mean, really, when you're doing 8 shows a year, that takes a lot of stuff. I remember when I first started, we were doing 10 shows a year. Ashland does 11 shows a year. We're only doing 1 less than Ashland. What are we thinking? So we finally took it down to 8, and that seemed manageable. The thing about Pentacle is like people, I know for me, it's finding a place to be that is like, oh wow, this really meets a lot of my needs. Wow. So like the first show that I did there, which was Who's Happy Now, Debbie Neal was in it, Jeff Sanders was in it, Dean Bartel, I don't know if you remember him, but he was around for quite a while. Shirley Phillips, there were all these people that I still know them. So the thing that was always still kind of amazed by is the huge variety of people that go out there with this common interest. I mean, they're from all different walks of life, and you kind of go, what? And you're just all there for the same reason, because you want to be doing that. So, and really, for every aspect of doing theater, there's always opportunity. And if you're not an actor, there's all kinds of things. You can be stage managed, you can help build sets, you can do all kinds of things. So it's interesting. Once I became an employee, it really changed the dynamics. There was something, I have to say, a little stressful about being an employee in an almost exclusive volunteer organization. So that was kind of a little strange. And then I noticed once I retired, I suddenly started to relax. It was very interesting. And suddenly all the fun and joy of doing it was just, there it is now again. And I've been doing it for over 65 years. That's a whole nother thing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm still amazed by it. I even remember when I first came out there going, well, this is really amazing. And it still is.